Gil Lebreton, the best book you ever read.
Catcher in the Rye.
That's a good one.
That's probably Missioners, Texas.
So I'm a little offended. The Boys Are Back, 1992.
Oh, I remember
Summit
that.
Publishing by Richie Witt and Mike Fisher.
An unauthorized.
Very unauthorized, but on sale now at garage sales everywhere for about $3.99. Best one I ever wrote, anyway. Welcome to PressBox DFW Live. I'm Richie Witt alongside two venerable Metroplex sports writers, Gil Lebreton, John Henry. Season 2, Episode 4. We are steamrolling here in Episode 2, guys. And today we have a pretty cool guest, don't we?
Yes, we do. We have a former colleague and a best-selling author, and she's one and the same.
Yep, former co-worker, now big-time author. It's Marjorie Herrera Lewis. Marjorie, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm doing great. How are you all doing?
We're doing good. We have a little thing called a vodcast now, so everybody can see your beautiful picture up on the screen, and we can hear your words, and we can buy your book, and we'll get to your amazing book, When the Men Were Gone, later. Let's first talk about, though, when you started, because you were kind of a pioneer in sports writing. I mean, when you started, how many women were beat writers for professional teams at major papers?
Oh, not many, that's for sure. I know Christine Brennan was in Washington with the Post covering the Redskins, and then I know, and I guess she and I were the only two at that time. We'd go to the NFL meetings, and we were the only two women. So this was back in the mid '80s, I guess. I took over on the Cowboys beat in '86.
Wow, in 80, that's when I started the Star Telegram, so we crossed paths a little bit. So in 86 to 88-ish, you covered some really lousy Cowboys teams.
And 89 when...
Yeah, I remember the WFAA was out at training camp, and they were interviewing all the reporters, asking everybody what we thought the team was going to finish that year. And I told the guy, I said, well, I think they're going to go 7-9. And then he looks at me and he says, you do know that they've gone 21 years without a losing record. I'm like, yes, I know it. And, yeah, they ended up 7-9 and didn't have a winning season while I was covering the team.
What was your acceptance like when you got there? Did the Cowboys roll out the red carpet for you?
Well, you know, it's funny because when I first got there, I walked around the locker room and I looked around wondering how much money I cost the organization, because all of a sudden curtains had gone up and signs everywhere saying do not leave cubicle area without clothing. You know, I mean, it was...
This was Valley Ranch, right?
Yes, it was out of Valley
Okay.
Ranch, so it was a definite change in culture even for the guys, but they were fantastic. They treated me like they treated everyone else, and I felt very much just an equal partner in everything.
Tell the Everson Walls apology story, if you could.
Oh, that was just such an incredible moment. I was talking to Tom Rafferty, and I had my back to the rest of and you guys remember they used to have everything was in quadrants then. It wasn't a big open
such a maze of lockers, yeah.
Yes. So I had my back to the rest of the quadrant area, and I was talking to Tom Rafferty, and while we were talking, at one point a rookie came up to me and he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "I'm sorry." And I looked at him and I said, "Sorry? What are you sorry for?" And he said, "Well, I changed while you were in the area." And I said, "Well, I didn't even know you were there." And he said, "Well, I knew that you didn't see me, and that's why I changed. I knew you." But Everson Walls saw that I did that, and he told me I had to apologize, that was disrespectful. So, you know, that was just
Wow.
that just told you a little bit about what the organization was like.
So you're still a sports fan. I'm sure you watch football, and at least you keep up with sports writing and the growth of female sportscasters, sports writers. It's just commonplace now. I mean, they're on the sideline, they're in the booth. There's beat writers everywhere. Could you imagine it back when you were getting apologies from Everson Walls that it would ever be such commonplace? Do you take some pride in that as being one of the first?
I'm so glad that I was part of the beginning. Yes, it really means a lot to me. If my little piece has anything to do with what women have been able to accomplish since then I'm really grateful for that. It was so, and am I surprised? Absolutely. I remember covering Super Bowl 22, and you know how many credentials there are, thousands of credentials, and we were told that only 6 had gone to women, and that included women who were carrying cables and everything else
Wow.
for TV. So it was just incredibly rare, but it made for a very unique experience being there at the beginning, and I'm hoping that it's made a difference for the women who have followed.
Now, I remember one last thing on this. I remember your former, I think she was your colleague, our colleague, Jennifer Briggs. She infamously wrote about her run-in with Reggie Jackson in the visiting clubhouse at a Rangers game when he opened his towel and flashed her. Did you ever have any Me Too moments? I mean, 3 decades ahead of its time. There's nothing uncomfortable ever happened?
Nothing like that, but I will tell you, I won't mention his name, but there was one football player when I was at Thousand Oaks, and I think it was my second season, that I was walking from the press area where we work on our stories and heading over to the football field, and it wasn't quite as busy in those days as it is today, so I was walking in an area that was pretty empty between some of those buildings at Cal Lutheran. And all of a sudden, somebody grabbed me from behind and put both my wrists up against the wall, pushed me up against the building, and I looked at him, and he was wearing a neck brace because he missed most of the season, I think, because of a neck injury. And I just looked at him and I said, "You lay one hand on me, and that neck brace is never coming off." And he stared at me for a second and let go and walked away.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was really horrible.
So stay tuned for Marjorie's second book when
Yeah.
she'll reveal this name. No, that's a scary
yeah, but
story.
nothing else.
That's
Everybody
enough. That's
else
plenty,
was-
I'm sure.
It was fantastic the rest of the way. It really was. There were very few incidents that I would say were awful and uncomfortable. Very few.
Let me say something else about that too. You were one of the pioneers, one of the founding women who started Awesome, the Association for Women in Sports Media. Did I say that right? Women in Sports Media.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, That's
talk
right.
about some of the great names and pioneering women who forged a path for the future in women's sports writing and sports casting.
I mean, those early meetings had to been like you just went to dinner with 2 other girls, right? I mean,
Practically,
yeah.
yes. There weren't very many, but we were a very dedicated group, and we had a vision. And we were from all over the country doing some great work, and it was such an honor to be part of that founding group. And we started out with our first conference out in Oakland, California, at an old, very small Ramada Inn was our first convention, and we were just pretty determined to make this work. And when I look at it now and see how massive the organization is with chapters at colleges and universities and scholarships and what it's been able to accomplish, it's just mind-boggling. But it's all because of the dedication and the determination, I think, at the very beginning.
Marjorie Herrera Lewis joining us here on PressBox DFW Live, one of the pioneers of female sports writing in America. She's also written a very popular, fantastic book called When the Men Were Gone. Let me get this straight. It's a story about a real person, but it's a fictionized tale about her life. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it's historical fiction based on a true story of a woman named Tylene Wilson in Brownwood, Texas, who coached football at the school district during World War II.
And I know John has read it, and I've read
I
it.
have.
What I came away with was thinking. You may have seen the comparison. It's a little bit Summer of '42, Hoosiers, and Friday Night Lights. That's
oh my
kind of
gosh,
the
what
things.
a wonderful! Could you write a review for
Yeah,
us, please?
that needs to
Put
go
it
on the back cover,
Amazon
Bill.
and Goodreads.
No, it gave me all those kind of feelings through the whole thing. And of course, Tylene's an incredible character, and her story is so compelling, and it's not, as you say, it's not 100% true because I guess it was a fire at Brownwood High School in the 60s.
Yeah, not at the high school, but in one of their records offices, one of the buildings that had a lot of the records. And so I found out during the course of my research that some of the information I absolutely needed in order to write a biography about her was gone for good. I would never find it. Mm-hmm. And that's when I decided to write it as a fictionalized account because I still wanted to memorialize what she had done, but I knew then I couldn't do, I would never have the finer details that you would need to write a biography.
And Marjorie, how did you, knowing you came up against a bunch of roadblocks because you couldn't tell an authentic biography of her, how did you strike a balance between the fact and the fiction?
Well, I wrote it, everything that I did know, I included. So the only parts that I had to create as fiction were to fill in the holes. So, if you read the book, you'll see that there's a place in there that even little anecdotes that I absolutely love that I found out. For example, there's one that I absolutely, one of my favorite little anecdotes because she always wore a dress and heels and a string of pearls. That's what she always wore. So I kept that
just like
true.
Tom Landry.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what came to mind.
Sounds more like June Cleaver.
And she she was coaching a game and her heel got caught in the turf, and she
I hate when that
tried
happens.
to.
She lost
She
it.
wriggled it loose, but the shoe actually came flying off and nearly hit an official during the game. And I have that little anecdote in the book, and that's a true story. There are a lot of true things in there, but I had to mix in. I created the game itself because there was no record of, what happened in the game,
Sure.
and I couldn't distinguish in the season which games were attributed to her and which may have been for a male coach at the time or whatever. So I had to create the story around everything that I knew to be true.
So the genesis of this great book, When the Men Were Gone, was you learning about Tylene Wilson. How the heck did you even learn about her existence and then start digging into her story?
Oh, it was a wonderful day. I woke up one day because I was miserable and I was struggling with horrible allergies. And my doctor had finally, after 23 years, coerced me into getting allergy testing and shots. So 23 years after my allergies were horrible, I finally went in and I put on that morning a T-shirt with my daughter's alma mater on it, and it said University of Tulsa football. And my nurse, who was doing the shots, she said, "A woman who loves football? I do too. It runs in our family because my great aunt was a football coach." And that's how I found out. Now, I had crossed paths with Jean Van Waters for 23 years, but had never worn a T-shirt. And so I could have found this story out a long time ago, but it was when I put that T-shirt on that she had a reason to tell me about her great aunt, and off we went.
Marjorie, in your research, what else did you find out about other women football coaches in that era when the men were
Well,
gone?
I found 3 others, actually. I found another one in Texas, and her name was Frankie Robinson, and she was in Sulphur Bluff, which I'm not really sure off the top of my head where that is, but I did the research and I knew at the time. But anyway, and then 2 other women, one in the East Coast and one on the West Coast, and their names were both Pauline. And I found a magazine article about the 2 Paulines. So as far as I know, there were 4. That's all I've been able to discover.
While you're talking, we keep flashing on the screen the picture of you in your coaching attire. People need to know that as part of your research for the book, that you actually became an assistant football coach during that time. Can you talk a little bit about your time at Wesleyan?
Yeah, actually, it wasn't really because of the research. It was because I got motivated by Tylene. The more I researched her story and the more I started writing about her, I just all of a sudden just thought, I want to give this a try. I just think that I have, in all my years of observing and studying the game, I thought I have something, maybe not a lot, but a little something that I could add to a football coaching staff. And I've taught at the college and university level for so long that I already feel comfortable with young men of that age. So I reached out when Texas Wesleyan was bringing their football program back since 1941, the first team for in 2017, and they added me as a volunteer coach working with defensive backs, and I reported to Quincy Butler, a former TCU fantastic football player, and he and I worked as a team, and we worked with the defensive backs, and it was one of the most wonderful experiences. I just really enjoyed it. So my responsibility was to work with Quincy, and then also I worked with the guys with their academics and also with community service. So it was a great experience.
Wow. So was your coaching style more Tom Landry or Ernie Stautner?
Well, maybe I would love to be included in either one of those, in the category with either one. But I just had I did a lot of observing, and then when I saw something that needed to be done, addressed, I would do that. And then I wrote a lot of notes during practice, and that's how Quincy was able to determine the lineup based on my notes. And I would huddle the guys and tell them what I was looking for, what they needed to do, and they knew what I was jotting down, and I had my eyes on them all the way through practices. And one of the other things, if I could tell you just for a second, but Texas Wesleyan doesn't have a football field or a practice field on campus. So we had to practice at 6 o'clock in the morning at Poly High School.
Right.
And we would get there about 5:30, 5:45, and it was dark, and we practiced under the lights. And you could hear from a house nearby, you would hear the rooster. And it was surreal. I mean, I look back on it, and I feel like it was a scene in a movie. It was just so surreal. But it just reminded me of the dedication that everybody had to be out there on the field at that hour and really work hard. They don't practice it in the morning anymore, but I'm glad we did when I was there.
And I know you idolize Tylene, but don't tell me you wore pearls to practice, please.
No, I should have. That would have been a nice little connection, but no, I didn't.
Marjorie, 75 years have passed since Tylene. Is that right? Gee, 75?
Yeah.
And
from 44 to 19.
Have women in coaching progressed that far in that time?
No, and it's funny because I did have a line in there when she was talking to the principal and saying she wanted to take over the team, and he says to her, "This is 1944, not 1984. Women may coach in the future, but they don't now." And so, of course, you look at 84, and there was no progress. Now there's a little bit. It's not like what we've seen from, like, say, when we were talking earlier about when I was a Cowboys beat writer in the 80s to where we've come now with women in sports media. From 44 to 19, it's not quite the same. But there have been high school coaches, head coaches. I know one in Washington, D.C. There was one at a Catholic school, in Nunn, actually, in Washington State. And then, of course, we know of the women who have coached in the NFL and then in basketball with the San Antonio Spurs
Becky Hammond.
and different things. Yeah, so we have a little bit of a footprint, but I think we're just on the edge. We're starting to see now that women can be students of the game just like men. There's no piece of the brain that says no, football won't work here, but it works over here. So they're just equally as capable, and I think we're going to see the shift now. But since 44, no.
And I know you've referred to this before, but as an LSU alum, I just want to say that if something happens to Will Wade as head basketball coach, I would have no problem with them hiring Kim Mulkey to coach the LSU men's team. I would have no problem.
Oh, I think she would be incredible. I think she would absolutely be incredible. And I agree with you. I mean, the same thing with, Bobby Hurley at my alma mater at Arizona State. If for some reason he didn't stay there, I would love to see her. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes, if we even see that in our lifetimes, women as head coach of men's teams, like we did with Tylene in the 40s.
Absolutely. The book is When the Men Were Gone. Sports Illustrated named it its best sports novel of 2018, and I think you're making this into a movie, right?
Yes, we are. In fact, the screenwriter, her name is Skye Emerson. She and I are going to be going out to Brownwood next month, and she'll be doing a little bit of research. And I've already seen the first basically an outline draft, first draft of her script. And it's got a lot of differences from the book because it's going to be more visual, but it's a great script, and I can't wait. The producers have told me this is next on their list of projects, and so I feel like they're very committed to bringing this out pretty soon.
Very cool. What roles do me, Gil, and John play in the movie? Do you know?
The Winslow brothers.
Well, there aren't enough big stars that are male in this film, but if I can have Sky create some, I'll let you guys know.
All right.
Well, I want to tell everybody that today on PressBoxDFW.com,
Yes.
we published an excerpt from the book. Please read it. There's a link there to the HarperCollins site where you can purchase the book. By all means, read it, and it'll grab you just that one little excerpt.
Yep. It's a great book. It's available, I guess, everywhere books are sold, and go to the HarperCollins website. Marjorie, congratulations on a great book.
Congratulations.
And thanks for your time. Good catching up with you.
Oh, well, thank you. I had a blast. Thank you for having me on.
All right, there she goes.
Yeah, Marjorie.
Gil, we got to write a book. I mean, we worked alongside her, and now she's up here,
In a movie.
and I'm still sitting
In a
next to
movie.
you. Yeah,
A
she's got a
movie.
movie. We're looking at yellow notepads and trying to
I know.
do Elvis and make Elvis and the Pope proud. Come on, what are we doing? What we're doing is read our writing at PressBoxDFW.com every day. Watch us weekly right here on PressBox DFW Live. Next up in the pregame meal, what are we doing? Oh, it's Gil's Fantasy Threesome. This is going to be delicious.
Welcome to the pregame meal.
Thanks for having us.
And
Let's see, what do we have today?
And what could possibly happen to Will Wade? I mean, come on.
No, well, no, wait a
Sound
minute
like
now.
he wanted something to happen, didn't it?
I mean, you never heard that wiretap tape.
That's true.
Nobody's
That's
heard
true.
it. You don't know what's on there.
That's true.
Yeah, John.
You know,
We have our very own Racehorse Haynes down here.
but we'll be fine. We'll be fine no matter what happens. Besides, football season's getting ready to start. The pregame meal this week brought to you by Paul Melvin's on North Beltline Road in Irving. For the best in local seafood, go see Mel Lemaine at Paul Melvin's. Yeah, I wrote this week on an idea that was.
Can we talk Mavs first, real quick?
Absolutely.
Sorry. Before you get to that, 'cause
that's
I think
part
it's a good
it's
segue.
part of it. Yeah.
So, am I the only one that thinks the Mavs have swung and whiffed miserably within free agency?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Again.
As of now, yes.
I mean, they had $30 million in cap space, and that is getting them so far Seth Curry. The wrong Curry.
Right, the wrong Curry.
Right.
And who started 2 games last year, by the way.
I mean, he's not a bad
Started 2
player,
games.
but there were names like Kemba Walker, and they're going to trade for Capella and Patrick Beverly and Al Horford and Chris Middleton and Brogdon. And instead, we're like, hey, we got Porzingis and Kleber and Dwight Powell. We re-signed J.J. Barea. I mean,
But you know what happens in all
just
these
feel like a
things,
letdown.
no matter what the sport, no matter what the league, in free agency, if you finish second, you finish last.
Yeah.
You know, and it could well be that they're finishing second on all these things, but they have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
And I don't think this was the plan. And I think the Western Conference has gotten measurably tougher. And heck, their division has gotten tougher.
Yep.
And it's going to be a really rough fight to make the playoffs. When I think, everybody kind of assumed that they were going to make that step up to the.
and they still may. We haven't seen Porzingis even
Right.
take his first shot. He
Right.
might be the biggest.
Yeah,
he might be
chemistry
the
works.
greatest free agent of the season.
Right.
We just don't know.
Chemistry works in odd ways, and it could
Yeah.
well be that they put the pieces together, and with Rick Carlisle's coaching, that it works.
Yeah. The background for Marjorie's segment was Brownwood High School's field. Where are we at now, Gil?
This would be Stade Lyon in the home
John,
of
it's Stade Lyon.
Stade Lyon in La Belle France, and this is the home of the. Well, you see it right there, the Olympique Lyonnais soccer team, and this is going to be the site today of the USA England World Cup semifinal.
Okay. It'll be a little bit more crowded today when they kick
See,
off.
they don't believe there's distinct differences in European stadiums. I've found they don't believe in jamming 110,000 seats in a in a stadium.
No, they make it much more quaint.
They want it to be a true home field advantage.
Yeah.
And the other thing there is they all have this bit of an overhang, and it covers the spectators.
Sort of Texas
What a
Stadium-ish.
What a
sort
concept! Yeah. And now I mean, look at places like the Big House in Michigan and the L.A. Coliseum. No covering whatsoever.
That's the elements.
You got to be tough to
All right,
watch
John,
American football.
John, be honest with me right now. It's hard to take him seriously when there's Chief Wahoo, the Pope, and Elvis staring at us while Bill's talking.
Yeah,
It's a crew.
Is that your fantasy three? Is this your fantasy three?
Yeah, that's my posse. That's my posse,
posse.
right there.
But you also wrote a
Pope
good
Francis.
column this week about sort of fantasy trios. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the real impetus, I was planning to do a Joey Gallo All-Star game kind of thing. He makes the All-Star team, and it gets me to thinking, who has it better for young guys than the DFW area? And I'm thinking Luka Doncic. And there's Luka with his girl. No, wait a minute. That's not his girlfriend.
No,
that's
his
his mom.
That's his mom.
It's ridiculous.
I mean,
That is absolutely ridiculous.
how many times
That's ridiculous.
is that going to happen to him and her and us?
Well, you made the remark. When we saw the picture of the girlfriend, it was it's like, is that the babysitter?
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Or the babysitted. I mean, she's
right.
so young.
How do
Yeah,
we get
so-
Luca's mom on the show?
That would be. We'll have to check with the Mavericks on that. I don't know. But Luka
Live
Doncic,
on
the
the show.
Cowboys have
You like sitting in my
Ezekiel
chair
Elliott.
with me not on vacation. Is what you're trying to say?
Here's Zeke Elliott
Yes, young.
in the playoffs, and now the Rangers have All-Star Joey Gallo. All of these guys are 25 and younger, and it got me to thinking, who else has a trio like that of young players in those three most popular sports? Hockey, and who has those three other sports and has a better threesome than that? So I started going through the different cities, and I went through I took New York first, and all of those Yankee guys, they're all on the high side of 25. I figured that the best young player in New York right now is Pete Alonso, the first baseman for the Mets. He's an all-star. He's having a great breakthrough season. He's going to be a future superstar, I'll bet. The Giants, the football Giants, have Saquon Barkley, pretty good.
Very good.
But then I started to think, well, who do the Knicks have? And I couldn't come up with anybody. I mean,
Dennis Smith
Dennis Smith.
Jr.
There's Dennis
That's
Smith
it.
Jr.
There he
That's
is.
it. That's it. That's
What logo is that? I
that's-
don't think that's Jerry West.
not Jerry West.
That's the New York representative
Slick
for
Watts.
basketball right now. He plays at Madison Square Garden, and so then I went to Boston, and I thought, well, okay,
It's
they've got
tough to have all three really good and under 25. But
right,
yeah.
and Rafael Devers, of course, is a all-star for the Red Sox. Celtics have Jason Tatum,
Yes.
Good young player, and then I started to think, who do the Patriots have? That's a young rising star, 25 or younger, and so
That's
again,
not the way they do things over there.
no Patriot. So they're out. So then I moved on to Los Angeles. The Lakers have Kyle Kuzma, great young,
Yeah, very good
The
player.
one young guy left after
Yeah.
the LeBron.
They had a
trade.
bunch of under 25s and got rid
Right,
of them all.
right. The Rams have Jared Goff.
Really,
and,
really good one.
And look at that, he's getting sacked against the Saints.
That's roughing the quarterback, Gil. I'm calling it right
That's
now.
right. I picked that picture, and the Dodgers have a great young player named Cody Bellinger,
Sure.
who's having an MVP kind of season. That's pretty good.
So
Pretty good. group.
why is DFW better than that threesome? That's pretty strong.
Well, I think Elliott's better than Jared Goff, and I think Luka's better than Kyle Kuzma. So two out of three.
Arguments could be made, but yeah, I think you're right.
Two out of three. I mean,
But Bellinger's better than
So-
Gallo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, and of course we couldn't even couldn't even written this about DFW in March, right? I mean, Gallo hadn't taken those.
I wrote a very scathing article about Gallo. Now he's an
right.
all-star. I think.
Well, some of us knew. Some of us.
Some of
That's
us,
true.
Phoenix.
That's true.
Some of us are humble, and some of us are not.
Let's go to the last one that I
right.
thought was a serious contender, and that's the city of Phoenix, where the Suns have DeAndre Ayton.
First round pick, first overall pick.
The Diamondbacks have a young guy that some of you probably never heard of, named Ketel Marte, and
Not familiar with his fine
oh,
work.
he's good, and he's going to be even better. And I started thinking, well, who would be the football guy? And of course, it's the new quarterback.
Number 1 pick.
And there he is, with the devil himself. But he's and Kyler, but we don't know what Kyler Murray's going to be yet. And so right now, my money would be on Zeke Elliott, and I think Gallo matches Marte right now, and Luka's better than DeAndre Ayton. But Phoenix has 3 good young ones.
Yeah.
And like somebody wrote me and said, well, it's not a very scientific test, And I'm going, no kidding. It's
How would you make that scientific? I'd like to
It's
know
a
that.
bar room.
Like test their DNA and
They
Have
thought
a
I
7th
was-
grade science board.
They thought I was arbitrary. And I said, well, of course, it's a barroom argument.
Yeah,
It's the
of
kind of
course.
thing you argue about at the office, you argue over lunch or in the bar. So
That's a good
I
one.
had,
Though.
I
I'll
had
take
some.
DFW. I like our young
Yeah.
trio.
Yeah.
Now let's revisit maybe in a year.
Even Joey Gallo, Mr. Gallo.
He's an all-star. I can't deny, and he's hitting. He's better.
He's hitting singles.
He's hitting singles, and he's playing
know
good
that
outfield.
pleases you.
He's hitting good outfield. I love that. Give me a good single, Joey Gallo. All right, there's some pregame meal here on PressBox DFW Live. Next up in Double Dribble, sports and poetry, courtesy of John Doe.
Marjorie was talking about the rooster. She could hear it
Yes.
6 in the morning at practice in Polytechnic Heights. When I was covering the city of Fort Worth, there was this very hot button issue of a rooster ordinance in the city. You could only they eventually
A hot button issue was a rooster ordinance.
you wouldn't believe,
No, I would not believe. You're right.
and the council ultimately passed an ordinance in which last one.
Always.
In which a household could only own 1 rooster, because they had a problem with rooster cockfights and everything else, in the city. So I went down. I was looking for people who own roosters leading up to this meeting.
This is why we stuck to sports, Gil. We didn't have to go walking down
Didn't
the
have to do
streets
this.
looking for cockfights.
And
Who sent you on this assignment?
I put myself on the assignment. But so anyway, I go up to a postman. I'm in this neighborhood. I go up to a postman and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for households that might have some roosters. I know you're kind of familiar with this neighborhood."
Yeah.
And I said, "Do you know of any houses?" He goes, "Pick one." They're all over the place. So anyway, that's my cock story today. So
Please save that for the best of season 2, Ziggy.
late last year, I had the distinct privilege and high honor of talking to Eric Nadell, the Rangers broadcaster,
Yes.
who had just published a book called Lim Eric,
Yeah.
and it was a compilation of his 8th inning limericks that
Yep.
were so popular last year. And I immediately became intrigued by this device. And I kind of told myself, I'm going to start thinking more in verse. Stories I write, I'm going to go back. I'm going to think, how could I boil these down?
So this
to
was a
5
conscious decision.
Yes.
Not an organic evolution.
Yes, and
Okay.
I would send out, people would send me texts, what's your ETA? And I would send them back a haiku or a limerick or whatever, which annoyed them to no end. But so I kind of let it slide. So then last week, Ziggy and you, Richie, rechristened me John Doe,
No, that was totally Ziggy.
Ziggy.
our millennial
Use your new lower third up on screen.
Durant's.
John Doe.
It's the greatest rap name ever, but you turn it into a limerickist.
So,
Sunday, I'm kind of batting around ideas, and I go, here it is. Here's my chance. Here's my chance
All right,
to
John, take the stage.
Here's my chance to.
Can you imagine if John opened up for like Jay-Z?
Oh, it'd be a one night only. I'll tell you that right now. So Edward Lear, of course, is the who considered the poet who mastered the limerick. There was a man from Nantucket who kept all his cash in a bucket.
I don't like the way this is starting. Get ready with the button.
I know the other version of this one.
But his daughter, this is okay, but his daughter
okay.
named Nan ran away with a man. And as for the bucket, Nantucket. Okay, so.
That's a groaner instead of a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these things are 5 lines.
Got it.
Lines 1, 2, and 5 are 7 to 10 syllables and they rhyme. 3 and 4 are 5 to 7 syllables and they rhyme. So as my great idea, I was going to take the most recent or some recent sports stories and turn them into limericks.
So this is original content from John Doe.
Very much original
Got
content.
it.
For example, NBA free agency.
Okay.
My first one is titled Mavericks in Heat. Now you also have to realize that limericks are supposed to be bawdy
Yes.
and irreverent and the such. So Mavericks in Heat is the title of my first one. We're familiar with what happened. We just talked about it.
Yes.
And it goes something like this. The Mavs in Heat were said to have a deal. Jones Jr. and Olynyk were on the reel. Miami said, whoa, Goran has to go. In the end, they didn't break the seal.
I like it.
Now, of course,
Rim shot, please.
you realize, that you're supposed to start slow with these and then finish strong.
Yes.
You
gotta
so
ramp up.
starting.
You got to ramp. Yeah. I'm with
Got to
you.
ramp it up. Of course.
Yeah, play your hits at the end. Don't shoot. Don't shoot it early.
Here's another kind one, titled Our Homeboy. The metrics don't help to make any sense of how our boy returned for civil defense. Only the best of man can survive the Dominican can. Now you're an all-star, Hunter Pence.
Whoa.
I didn't even see that one coming.
Very
until the
nicely
end.
played.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was
Nicely
trying to guess
played.
who that was about, and I didn't.
That's a 5-tool. It's a 5-tool
It's a 5-tool limerick.
limerick. And congratulations to you, Hunter Pence.
Yes, local boy.
Here's one I think I might turn into the limerick contest in
The Pulitzer Prize
Pulitzer
Committee.
Committee, yeah.
The Limerick Pulitzer Committee. Okay.
Happy Bobby Bonilla Day.
Bobby just
Bonilla
cashed
Day.
in. He just
And we're all familiar with the Happy Bobby Bonilla
yeah.
Day. Every July 1st, he gets
greatest contract ever.
he gets $1.9 million from the Mets.
Still, to this
until
day.
until 2035 when he'll be 72 years old.
I would like.
And
that.
he's been getting a regular check since 1999.
Yes.
What's his regular check for? Severance?
Well, I mean, his first of these many checks started
Oh,
in
okay, I got you,
1999. So year
So
20.
using that inspiration, there was once a man from Pittsburgh's town halls. Fastballs or mothballs, he could hit them alls. A nimble lawyer bent over the employer. Bobby Bonilla, you have life by the balls.
That's the best one. Any line that makes Gil go, oh, that I'm totally down with.
yeah,
Oh,
I was
just wait.
thinking
You had it in
editor.
line too.
And you're going to start writing like this, you said?
this one he's turning in. We need a new tab on PressBoxDFW.com for limericks.
Yeah,
There's going to be
limericks
one author.
The article's live on the site, guys.
Oh, it
You
is?
can
That's
read them
right.
all right now.
Yeah, you can read all these stories at PressBoxDFW.com.
All right.
All these limericks.
So we had a dateline of Wendy's parking lot in Coppell, Texas.
Oh, no. We're going there. We're going there. Okay.
On Sunday. So I titled this one, Bent Josh Brent.
Oh, dear.
Oh, no.
Had my afternoons, even a morning or two. All through the day works a corkscrew. He without a sin should try bathtub gin. Josh Brent, you should just stick to beef stew.
Oh, okay. Much
Now there-
tamer than
Now there's an update.
that. Could have gone. That could have gotten real dark.
Yeah, that was the.
There's an
pretty
update to this limerick.
mild. What's the update?
Josh Brent was just on beef stew. He was not intoxicated.
It's true. So if you haven't heard the story, Josh Brent, who again was convicted of manslaughter in the 2012 accident that killed Cowboys teammate Jerry Brown, and he's been on the Cowboys staff since he got out of. He went to jail for 180 days, right?
Yeah.
Out of
And-
jail.
and 10 years probation.
But we thought over the weekend he got arrested for DUI
Right.
under the influence.
Well, he told him he was drunk.
Not driving, just
Public intoxication.
Thank you,
That's what it
PI.
was.
But now he wasn't drinking after all, right?
Yeah, he wasn't drunk. No, there was.
He was just
the
having a-
toxicology test came back. He was clean.
He was just having a
He had a
having a day apparently.
He had a mental incident
Yeah.
episode. What apparently they're saying.
So we went from Josh Brent.
The video was pretty damning.
Yeah, he had to be tased
Yeah.
during his fit.
And it looked like he deserved it
Yeah,
to be tased.
absolutely.
The way he was acted, but I hope he gets better.
So do I. And so anyway, that limerick has not aged well.
No, it's only like 2 hours old. It's already got a rewrite.
Are you going to end with the Rapino one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one.
How did you know?
Because I've got the story up in front of me.
Because he's on PressBox DFW.com. I
I'm
can
going to go
see
to the
him.
hard stuff right now. Go ahead.
So one of the darlings of the U.S. women's team is Megan Rapinoe.
Yes.
She's fierce.
She has a mind and a head of hair all her own. So do I.
Yeah, her hair looks like yours.
She used to have this gorgeous white, almost hairdo, but for this World Cup, she decided to tint it purple.
Yeah.
She has.
And I'm all for purple, but
She
not my hair color of choice.
she has been featured as much for her soccer as for her political views.
Yes.
Right.
The last few weeks, and so with that in mind, I came up with this. The news wires are gushing Rapinoe. To the White House, she's like, "Oh, fuck no. No one should condemn. Bill of Rights, we're all for them. But Megan, you look like George Washington, yo."
That's the old hairdo there.
There it is. I mean,
That's the
is
old
it just me,
hairdo and
or-
the older hairdo. Yeah. Yeah, it is a little.
Yeah, it's too close for
Megan
comfort,
wore
for
it better,
sure.
but-
Megan did wear it better.
Well, maybe she's George reincarnated. Maybe her political views are what
It's
George
kind of
would
crazy. Like she's singularly has polarized America over the U.S. women's soccer team.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But they play at 2:00 today against England. Thank you, John Doe. Where's your next concert?
I'll be at
Be
Woody's
nowhere.
Tavern all week.
You're not going to be anywhere.
Woody's Tavern all week.
Tavern. John Doe appearing at Woody's Tavern all week. All right. Next up in Wits End, why are the Rangers dissing this franchise icon? Wits End, sponsored by the good folks at AutoFlex Leasing. Don't buy your next car, lease it and save money. Autoflex.com is where to go. Ask for David and Tammy. Tell them that Richie Witt sent you, and maybe they'll kick you right out. Or maybe they'll lease you a car. Who knows? They're good people. AutoFlex Leasing. So I was watching the Rangers last week, and Danny Santana's having himself a out of nowhere decent season, right?
Definitely.
When I was watching, he hit a home run. They said it's his 5th homer in 7 games. I was like, wow, this kid's really well, yeah.
He's been around.
When you get, my birthday's next week, and you get 55, everybody's a kid, right? But I looked and I was like, wait a minute, he's wearing number 38. Remember earlier this year I did the numbers game, and you pointed out to me that I forgot who, I think I had Ron Francis or something. You were like, what about Wash? I was like,
No,
I forgot. Remember you pointed that out?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you did have Ron.
I had
Ron
somebody
Francis.
ridiculous, and I forgot Wash.
Jeff
Like, how can
Heath,
I
I don't
forget
know.
Wash? He wore number 38 for the Rangers, he's the greatest manager in history. And I saw Danny Santana. I'm like, wait a minute now. If Johnny Oates, we love Johnny Oates, but if he's in the Rangers Hall of Fame and his number 26 is retired, why not Wash? And I started digging into it a little bit deeper, and this is criminal that the Rangers don't have him in their Hall of Fame.
I love that.
How do you not put just for that alone? If he won no games as
That
your manager,
captures- Oh,
yeah.
he needs that statue.
That
needs to
captures
be
his
in front of the
personality
stadium.
perfectly.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I think they will. I think they will with time.
You do?
Yeah.
Why hasn't it already, though?
I think the circumstances around
His departure.
All right, let's
departure.
get to that. So that's because the only thing it could be. So Johnny Oates, fantastic manager, sparkling character, right? In the 90s, led the Rangers to their first 3 division titles and to their first playoff games. Had his number 26 retired in 03 and went to 05 and went to the Hall of Fame in 03. There's Johnny Oates. Great guy, right?
Went to the Rangers Hall of Fame, right?
Nobody's ever said a bad word about Johnny Oates.
And died way too soon.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And here's the thing, though. Ron Washington was a more accomplished manager than Johnny Oates. You cannot rationally argue against the fact that Wash is only better than Oates. He's the best manager in Rangers history. And it's really not even close.
You'll get no argument here.
No.
Speaking of arguing, here comes Washington arguing as only he can. He's arguing against my own point.
I'm sure.
See,
He crossed the line there.
Wash leads the Rangers managers in all-time number of games, number of wins, playoff success, and of course, he's the only manager to lead the Rangers to the World Series. He did it twice.
F-bombs dropped, too.
Oh, and he would F-bomb you. Absolutely. He managed 18 playoff wins. The other 23 Rangers managers in history have managed 3. Tell me what I'm missing. If Oates is sainted, Wash should be sainted. But now let's get to the only logical explanation. Off the field, he did have some dents in his character. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you admit to using cocaine during the season as the manager, that's kind of a chink in your armor. But, okay, I'll get to the next one.
He was up late.
He said it was the first and only time he tried it, which, who knows. Okay, that was during the 09 season. When he left at the end of 2014, it was really weird, right? Mm-hmm. He just left, and remember his press conference was just like, I'm just taking a leave of absence. And it wasn't until a couple months later that he had the press conference when he explained, he apologized for breaking the trust of his longtime wife. Mm-hmm. So, and he just resigned, I think it was the last week of the season. So it was really weird. But is that enough to totally dilute his successful 8-year career?
No, I think it does. I mean, I think it for now, I think there is a blemish on it, but I think as time passes, I think it'll clear. And I think.
What do you think he belongs in or no?
Absolutely.
But the end was peculiar at the very least, right? Or does the end even matter?
It shouldn't, because that doesn't take away the fact that they got to the World Series twice and he was the manager. And I think the
a lot
issue,
of it was because of him. I mean, they had great players, but he was infectious. His optimism, his enthusiasm, it's the way he was. I mean, he would pick you up as a fan. They'd lose a game, and he'd be like, we're playing tomorrow. We love baseball. And you'd be ready to go. Let's play too. I mean, he was fantastic.
Everybody loved him, except Mark Teixeira, and that says more about Teixeira
that's a
than
good
it does
person
anything.
to have hating.
And but I think the real issue here is Wash isn't retired. He's
He's still with the Braves, I think,
he's
right?
a coach. He's third base coach for the Braves.
Yeah.
And as long as he's still active, I don't think they feel any.
So let's agree that the
timeline on this.
moment he retires, the Rangers reach out to him. How about that?
I would hope so.
Because I had one guy in mind when I started thinking about what you said. It's his image is tarnished. Josh Hamilton's going into the Rangers Hall of Fame. If he can go in with that image, so can Wash, right?
Just think if in future years Wash finally decides that he doesn't want to be a coach anymore, or maybe even a manager, and he comes back as a member of the Rangers Hall of Fame, the reception would be tremendous. I mean, people would love to see Wash.
Be a sellout game just to see Wash inducted. Absolutely. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I hope he stays clear of all of experimental drugs and doesn't have any more breaking the trust of his wife, and he just winds up where he deserves, and that's the Rangers Hall of Fame. Speaking of the Rangers, wrote a column this week at PressBoxDFW.com on what I think is the best baseball story of the year, and that's Hunter Pence. Arlington High, went to my school, UTA, and if you saw him on a backfield, you would think, whose dad is out there? Because he does not look like a baseball player. He's gangly. He's clumsy. He lurches at the ball. He can't throw 10 feet.
Got that funky arm motion.
Yeah. I mean, his eyes are always wide. His tongue's out. He just looks like a guy who's like at fantasy camp.
There he is.
He does not look like a baseball player. Yet he goes on, plays for the Astros, plays for wins 2 World Series with the Giants, 3-time All-Star, and then all of a sudden he just loses it. 35 years old last year. He looked lost. He hit 228. He had no pop, and this was at the World Series, but at the last game of last year, the Giants basically had a retirement party for him.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't say it, but it was like, thanks for all you've done. And it wasn't like, can't wait to see you next year. It was like, thanks for all you've done, ... We'll see you when we put you in our Hall of Fame. But he decided, that's nice of everybody to wish me well in retirement, but I'm just going to revamp my swing. And I'm going to do it in the Dominican Republic Winter League, which, Gil, as you know, that's for like 17-year-old prospects trying to hit their way out of the. Not many guys go there to revamp their career, do they?
Well, here's the distinction.
Okay.
First of all, just to make it more accurate, the Dominican League is a very serious league. There are a lot of young players there, but also there are a lot of older guys who are they're there to stay in shape over the winter, because winning is important in the Dominican League. If you're a U.S.-born player and you're down there to work on something, that's often frowned upon. And if you get off to a lousy start, like if Hunter had gotten off to a lousy start down there,
He would have been
then they would have said, "We're sorry, but we got to win." So
The resort's over there.
Your little stint with us is gone. The fields are small. They're not dilapidated and all that. It's like a nice little minor league park.
I saw a documentary on MLB Network about him, and one of those stadiums he was in was a
It was a dump.
dump,
Where he
yeah.
played in La Romana, it was like a good Double-A stadium or
Gotcha.
whatever, and they had real uniforms and everything and stuff like that. But he got away. He was lucky. He hit right away.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he became like the team cheerleader.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody in La Romana loved him. I mean, and his teammates loved him. And that's a very odd reaction for a really difficult place to
that's just
play.
him.
I was going to say
He's
that
a-
he would
I mean, who
even
does
go
that?
down there.
Who does that?
I saw the video of him after a game, like shirtless, wearing this huge necklace of the logo of the team, trying
big
to speak
T.
Spanish and getting every third word wrong, and they were just like, "Yeah," they just loved
big
him. He's
T.
just yeah.
I know
And now he's an all-star. He's one of the best stories of he may not play in the all-star
But-
games. He had a setback last
Yeah.
night, I think, with his rehab. But
it's the Rangers' great credit that they
Absolutely.
scouted him down there, and they were willing to give him a chance. The planets aligned. I mean, it's his hometown team.
Yeah.
Just a few miles from where he grew up, and you're right. He's he's probably baseball's best story in the first half.
Now, this is a serious question. Can you be AL Comeback Player of the Year if you've never played in the
Sure.
AL?
Sure.
Well, I mean, you see what I'm saying?
You're not. No, you're not
Where's he
being.
coming back from? He was never. This is his freshman year.
No. He's just.
Because they don't. Baseball
If
doesn't
you
do
play-
an overall. They do an AL and an NL, right?
Well, it's not a 2-year award. It's only that current year. So if you played, if
And
you
it's the
switch
totality
leagues,
of your career, so even if you're in the NL, your whole
So it's
career.
the AL Comeback Player of the Year from a bad year in the NL award.
Could be
I-
that.
It's very clunky.
I'll work on that limerick.
Yeah, we're. Thank you. Bail me out, John Doe. Coming up, I know we're going to get to stuff on the website, but I'm writing a column on American sports. July 4th is coming up on Thursday. I've got 244 reasons to appreciate American sports, and that'll be on the website on Thursday, so check that one out. And again,
forward to that.
U.S. women's soccer versus England today in the World Cup semis right there behind us. That's at 2 o'clock. We'll probably talk about that next week. Next up on PressBox DFW Live, let's get on out of here. We got to round the bases and head for home. Welcome to the walk-off, where we hit one out of the park and then walk it off. John Henry, I got a question for you. What's wrong with Tattoo? I mean, he's been on the DL for like a month now.
Tattoo's, he's older,
He's older.
as we know, and his
He's worse.
under hike.
rehab hasn't gone exactly as planned.
Can you hold him up? Oh, there he is. Okay, we got him. Yeah, he's been. He's been horizontal for the last 4 shows.
He's got a broken leg.
Yeah, they're trying to probably diagnose it and see exactly.
All right, it looks like you have a new member of your cabinet.
Yeah, this is Lyndon Johnson with
course.
one of his beagles.
Yeah.
This is Dwight Eisenhower as a general, which he preferred to be referred to anyway.
Sure.
And then Gil presented me this morning, and that is the Gipper.
That is
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
All bobbleheads. Actually, Lyndon's he's been bobbling the entire show.
Yeah, they've been nodding. They were really going crazy.
They're
During John Doe's segment, they were like crazy.
I got affirmation
bob-
from
they
those
were
guys.
crazy
Having
bob-
bobbleheads come a long way. I mean, those are good. Look at this from the side. Those are great likenesses. Remember when the old days, the bobbleheads all had that Cupid doll,
Right,
Yeah.
stupid
right,
face,
right.
Pink cheeks
and of course Rowdy still looks like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Got to change Rowdy. Rowdy needs to be eliminated.
What's on the site? What are we looking at?
Well, your great story on Hunter Pence, John's limerick story. Matt Mosley's got one on the Mavericks swing and miss, and don't forget that excerpt from Marjorie on with her book When the Men Were Gone.
Yep. Go check out John Henry's limericks, because as good as it was to have him read them, when you actually read them, you'll get a better idea of how crazy he is. There it is.
There it is.
Ain't right.
All right, we'll be back next week for another episode of PressBox DFW Live. For Gil Leberton, John Henry, I'm Richie Witt. See you in the PressBox DFW.